A man found bloody and beaten in his friend's driveway, his head smashed in with a hammer. Forensic investigators have to recreate the scene in order to figure out what happened here. It was February 30th, a cold day in Davidsville, Massachusetts, when Robert Edison walked into a gruesome scene.
I'll never forget seeing him there. I mean, I didn't even know what I was looking at first. But there was blood. A lot of it.
What Robert saw was the body of his friend, Dale Marshall, in a river of blood. Dale was dead, beaten beyond recognition. After seeing this, Robert immediately called the police. Detective Ernie Sanchez was the first one on the scene.
After all my years of police work, I never have, and I probably never will see something like this again. I never thought a human could bleed so much.
Dale was found on top of Robert Edison's driveway, with a river of blood flowing down to the sidewalk where his car was parked.
I certainly found it odd that he was in my house. I mean, what was he doing there? Was he put there? Why was he there?
The most suspicious thing about the murder was the location of the body.
It had been over a month since Robert and Dale had last talked. Their last conversation dealt with Robert's ex-girlfriend.
Alright, so Robbie was being a douchebag, so I broke up with him, and then afterwards I start talking to Dale, and we start hooking up and whatever, but then Robbie gets all pissed off, and I'm like, that's what you get for being a douchebag, and I don't understand what he doesn't get about it.
Lisa and Dale began a relationship that lasted several weeks before they too broke up.
You know, I always think that I found the right guy, but then he pisses me off and I find someone better, and then he pisses me off. I always make the mistake of thinking a guy is the one. I thought it was going to be perfect, but you know, I'll be seeing these guys, they suck.
After finding Robert's possible motive for murdering his best friend, police decided to investigate the crime scene and look for any clues that could link Robert Edison to the crime. Officer Samuel L. Jackson was a key player in this process.
So the first thought was that Dale Marshall had killed himself.
How the hell could he have bashed his own head in with a hammer? I mean, I think he would have been knocked out way before he could have killed himself like that. Kind of lost faith in the detectives after that one. And then they start questioning me? Why the hell would I kill my best friend?
No, I'm not related to him. Oh yeah, Robert killed his best friend out of jealousy.
The body was found at the top of Mr. Edison's driveway. That's why he was our prime suspect.
Dale was found next to a trail of blood, presumed to be flowing from his body, but investigators were smart. They looked at the blood and realized that the blood was not flowing from Dale's head, but in fact, he was bleeding when he was dragged to the top of the driveway.
By looking at the blood trail, we could tell that Dale was dragged to the location. The blood wasn't flowing from the body. We could tell from the feathered edges pointing towards the victim.
This was a huge break in the investigation. The blood trail indicated that the crime had happened somewhere else.
It's amazing what you can tell just from the blood at a scene. It opens up a whole new set of doors, brings up new possible suspects, and other stuff.
Yeah, so I'm not the only suspect anymore? Whatever, I just hope they find the right guy soon. I mean, if I had done it, I would have gone into hiding by now. There's no reason they should think it was me.
Naturally, after finding this evidence, detectives wanted to look closer into the crime scene to see if they could find more.
At the top of that driveway, we saw a significant amount of blood spatter all over the walls of the house. Thank God for those white walls. They made our job so much easier.
The blood spatter on the walls indicated that the beating of Dale Marshall continued at the top of the driveway.
You know where I was when all this happened? Inside my house. I don't know what kind of crazy ninja tricks the guy used. But how did I not notice until I went outside?
That's when we decided to search the area for possible clues that could help us solve this case. We looked in the backyard, and lo and behold, we found 2 different hammers behind the shed.
One work hammer and one sledgehammer, found behind the shed of Robert Edison's house, were covered with blood and, oddly, semen.
It's not every day you see a murder weapon with semen on it. How did that even get there? Did he just whack off on the weapon?
Yeah, that's weird as hell.
It's very strange to find the murder weapon covered in semen, especially when the crime in question wasn't sexual at all.
We actually tested both the blood and the semen on the weapon. The blood belonged to the victim, and the semen belonged to Mr. Robert Edison.
Well, it's my hammer, isn't it?
The fact that the murder weapons belonged to Robert Edison made this case very suspicious, but still, detectives decided to search into other possible clues that could lead to the finding of further suspects.
Well, if it wasn't Robbie, then it was probably Jamie. Or Eddie. Or Sammy. Kind of think of it, a lot of people could have done it.
Huh, why's that?
A lot of guys fight over me.
Lisa told detectives about a man named Andrew Mullins who had previously been incarcerated. Mullins was now living in Virginia.
Why would I go all the way down to Massachusetts just to kill this little kid I never even heard of? I mean, I've been to jail. I didn't kill no one.
Andrew was put in jail for public indecency, and without any violent crimes on his belt, detectives decided to drop him as a suspect.
Jeez, you take your pants off in this town one time, then they accuse you of murder. Let's be honest, I think we all know why they chose to accuse me.
This meant that Robert Edison was once again the prime suspect in the case. Authorities looked at the scene once more, and, through the large amount of evidence, they obtained a search warrant to search the inside of the house of Robert Edison.
We looked inside Mr. Edison's house. This place was really tacky. That's not what we were looking for. But that just threw me off. What we did find, though, was in the suspect's dresser. We found a bloody shirt. And we asked him what he was doing with the shirt, and he said,
You see, I was riding my bicycle the other day, and I hit a bump in the road the wrong way. I fell off, and I cut myself up a lot. I did notice I was bleeding, but, I was timing myself. I was doing really good. Like, Olympic-worthy.
The blood on his shirt was tested, and it was found to belong to Dale Marshall. But once again, detectives found something odd in the results.
There was a large amount of semen on the shirt.
Yeah, that was mine.
The semen belonged to Mr. Edison, proving that he owned the shirt. But still, it did not explain why Mr. Marshall's blood was on it.
Oh, what a stupid mistake. You see, that was my other bloody shirt. The one you guys found was, the one when I, found Dale. I tried to revive him. I used CPR. Or was it the Heimlich maneuver? I can never remember which one was which.
This story checked out, as the shirt did show evidence of blood transfer, and detectives assumed that this is what happened. Detectives searched for more clues at the crime scene, but they found no more evidence. After that, the case went cold.
Hi, I'm Barry Smythe Harper, and if you're looking for a quality used car, come down to my place, Barry's Auto House.
Located at the end of the second First Avenue, First Floor.
Come down and buy this used red Hyundai, or this other compact car, or, well, there's only one car. It's my car. Come down to Barry's Auto House and buy my car, please. It's red Hyundai.
Another month went by before any advances were made in the case, but on April 14th, renowned blood spatter expert Brian Thompson, author of the book Nevada's Bloodiest Crime Scenes, and his children's book Everybody Dies, decided to join the case.
The first thing I wanted to look at was a trail of blood behind the body. The detectives were correct when they said that the body was dragged to the top of the driveway, but the thing I really wanted to look at was the bloody shirt.
Luckily, the crime lab saved the shirt itself, rather than just the pictures, and they delivered the shirt to Brian Thompson.
This is what's interesting here. You see these big, obvious streaks? That's from when Robert tried to revive Dale, but if you look here, these tiny droplets, it's medium velocity impact spatter.
Medium velocity impact spatter has a very distinct pattern. Unlike the transfer pattern on Robert's shirt, the tiny droplets suggest that Robert was present during the beating of Dale Marshall. This could mean only one thing.
Yep, I did it. It was me.
The discovery of the medium velocity blood spatter was probably the most important thing we found at the scene. It allowed us to pin Mr. Robert Edison at the scene of the crime.
We saw the medium velocity spatter on Mr. Edison's shirt, as well as on the side of the house, proving that Mr. Marshall was killed at Mr. Edison's house by Mr. Edison.
Detectives believe that Robert Edison invited Dale Marshall over to his house on February 30th and waited for Dale to arrive. Once he did arrive, Robert was waiting for him. As Dale got out of the car, at the foot of Robert's driveway, Robert struck him in the head with a hammer, knocking him unconscious. Robert then dragged Dale's unconscious body up the driveway, possibly in an attempt to hide the evidence. But Dale regained consciousness and started to fight back, leaving a transferred blood pattern on Robert's shirt. Robert retaliated and hit Dale again with a hammer, multiple times until he was sure that Dale was dead. But Dale was not dead. He was merely knocked unconscious. Dale then regained consciousness and tried to fight back before Robert dealt the final blow. Robert then fabricated a story to the police. He thought he could get away with his crime, but he didn't know that the tiny droplets of blood found in a shirt would tell a different story.
That's pretty much exactly how it happened.
I knew it was him. I knew it was that scumbag. Or Derek, or Vinny, or Joey. I've dated a lot of scumbags.
Robert was brought to trial and convicted of first-degree murder. He was sentenced to 30 years in prison without the possibility of parole.
The only thing I never figured out was Mr. Edison's motive for the crime.
Well, he obviously did it for me.
He did it for his own sick games. That man is crazy.
You want to know why I did it? It wasn't because of that girl or anything. It was really because of a lot of things, mostly because he was just pissing me off for a long time. So, I called him up one day, and I said to him, "Hey Dale, you want to make up, be friends again?" So I invited him over, and he came over, and BAM! Should have worked perfectly.
Sometimes it's really hard to figure out what happened, especially in cases like this, when the suspect is completely nuts.
I didn't kill him.
You admitted to killing him.
How do you know he's even dead?
We found the body with evidence that lets us know you were the one who killed Dale Marshall.
I didn't do it.
We know it was you.
It's not on camera.
The man's a genius.
If it wasn't for the blood left at the crime scene, we may never have solved this case. It would have been a guilty man walking free.
You know what I would be doing if I was a free man? A lot of stuff. I just have to sit here in jail all day. This sucks, man.